So the follow-up is?
Yeah, we're planning either we give them a lab wherein it will include some graphical analysis, or give them just a question about graphic, this type of question, like
Okay.
reading a graph.
So have they had a chance yet to graph their data from a lab?
Um, I think before we did it before.
Okay,
But
so
there's no follow up after that. I
right.
think we need to
Okay,
make
I see
follow
what you're
up
saying.
on that. That's
Yeah.
why they really have to. We have to spend more.
And so maybe that becomes the flip this
Yeah.
time, is to, instead of having them just interpret the graph, we may use the lab, that the Alka-Seltzer lab I think you were talking about earlier, to be the one where they're graphing the data.
Yeah.
And that's a nice, kind of direct way, because it's either going to be one of those four things. So they could, graph the temperature, and then, maybe
Even
it's for some.
probably concentration, we can include that, or the surface air that, we're planning also to give them experiment on using Alka-Seltzer, so
Right.
they could have a graph on it.
Yeah, sure.
Time
And so,
and-
because they can do it all, time and then the reaction
temperature,
rate itself. And so,
reaction rate.
using different sizes of
Yes.
Alka-Seltzer and the different temperatures. And so each of them then
And then
could.
provide them analysis question. What happened? So
Correct,
what
right. So
was-
they create the graphs.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. So let me, so to use the Alka-Seltzer lab, but each graph would be one of those four things.
Yeah. Just to, checking for mastery of that skill, because we've been talking about this since the start.
Right.
We still have to have more of this in the future.
So let's say we do the Alka-Seltzer lab upon return. What kind of questions do you think would best help them to show whether or not they really understand which of the factors has the biggest impact?
The biggest impact is the reading of the graph.
Okay.
The reading of the graph, basing on the result. Of course, they have to make their chart,
Mm-hmm.
and out of that, they have to graph, and then analyze what happened. Are they, as you increase the temperature, as you decrease the size of Alka-Seltzer, would it improve the rate of reaction? Would it go low? Would it go high? So those are the possible questions that would be included in the analysis question.
Okay, so for them, they would then, so each student would make 4 different graphs.
Yes.
Okay.
Break them half, or just break more after that,
Mhm.
or make it for
And
one
they could-
half, 1/4.
Right, and they could do that in stations, and so we
Yeah.
could set up the lab, and then maybe have 2 groups at every station, and by the end of the class period, because that's because they're not timing for more than 60
Probably
seconds.
one group would just use the whole thing, not breaking it, and the second station might break it half.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Then
And so in that case,
they can share their answers.
I was about to say, I was like, so if you give them, if each group goes through the stations, but they're each doing it, slightly different. And so if one group is breaking it in half and one group is breaking it in fourths, let's say at that surface
Mhm.
area station, then each student would end up being able to analyze more than 4 graphs.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I saw the math team do the other day is each team they made a small graph on their paper, but then they had to do a big version.
Oh, okay.
And so the big version is what they used as a class to analyze full class data before they wrote their reports up. And so they got to practice it pretty much twice.
Yeah. So make it smaller scale, bigger scale.
Because then they talked about the trends as a class.
Yeah.
And then as practice
presented
before,
words.
right,
Oh.
before they each wrote up their individual reports.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
so-
I think that would be nice. We might try that. Yeah, so allowing everyone to see the different results from
Correct.
different groups.
Right, and it also gives them chance of practice in both creating the graph and analyzing it, since you said
Yeah.
that seems to be the area that we're predicting they may struggle with the most. And so even if, and I think because, not just necessarily the prediction, but also, looking at past data, even looking at the skills and processes standards, period, knowing that the graphing piece always comes back up, that might be good practice in either case.
Yeah.
And as a good way to lead into the STOIC unit.
Yes.
Because then particularly for Alka-Seltzer, they could then lay out that equation. So you would have the substance itself plus the water, and then give them the chance to balance out the equation as a lead into stoichiometry. So that
There's
could
a
work
lot
out.
of things that we can think of this topic actually.
Right.
It covers the whole topic on balancing, predicting, analyzing the graph.
Right. It gives them a few things to
Yeah.
do. So if we're thinking, the kids come back on that Tuesday, the 18th. And so you have a few that still are taking the test.
Yes.
Okay, so that definitely wouldn't be the day.
Student reflection
Right. So were you planning to give them
by Wednesday? I think?
the actual reflection sheet, or were you going to do something different this time?
I haven't decided yet. Probably we will see first the result. And
Okay.
then whatever the result, we might either choose the student reflection first or go with what we have discussed.
Okay. And so either way, we're still looking toward the end of that week.
Yes, ma'am.
So either like Thursday and Friday, because we're
So
looking
we
at 2
have
days.
we have the option, Ms. Washington, we can have two options for this. Either not go with the student reflection and do.
I think, and it's kind of like you said, like depending on the results.
Okay.
And I mean, you want to give the students a chance to reflect no matter what.
Yes.
But last time we used the lab as the iterative practice,
Yes.
and so they did the shorter sheet to reflect on their individual performance, and then we moved right into the lab.
Okay.
But what may need to happen, depending on the results, is they do the individual reflection, we do some reteaching, depending on the topics,
Okay.
and then go into the
Oh
lab.
yeah. Okay.
Right, so that's,
in that order.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's why I was saying that, either way, we're looking at the late
Yeah.
end of
But we
next
will
week.
still proceed with the student reflection no matter what.
Right,
the
yes, so
outcome
they need to do some kind of reflection
Okay.
regardless of the outcome. So I think that, expecting that for Tuesday,
Yes.
so that the students who need to finish up
Yeah.
have the opportunity to get their data in,
Okay.
double check to make sure that, that fits kind of where we're planning to go, and gives everybody Wednesday for either reteach
Yeah,
or to
reteach.
finish up.
An iterative
Mhm.
lab.
Right. So we're still looking at pretty much that same timeline. So I guess when we get back on Tuesday, because we have our planning meeting anyway, at Tuesday's planning meeting, we'll look at the DDI for the unit, and then hopefully that'll be able to assist Mr. Weedy in getting ready for his, because his will be doing it that week.
Yes.
So that way we'll know, we'll look at the DDI,
He'll do
help
it-
him do some of
he'll
his
do it, I
predictions.
think he'll do it Wednesday because he still has to review a daily.
Right, yeah, he didn't want to do it on the Tuesday,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
And so, and that works out well because it gives him a chance to double check his predictions, and then, we won't have to double book the lab.
Yes.
We can set up for everybody to do the lab at separate times. And so that works for me completely.
Yeah.
Do you already have handouts for the Alka-Seltzer lab?
Yeah, I have it in my file.
Okay, and
I
so
might do some modifications.
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So just bring what you have to the meeting, and that way we can also then decide
Or suggest.
if any modifications need to be made, any other suggestions from everybody in the group, and make a decision
Yeah.
and move forward. Because I mean, it's an easy setup.
Yeah.
That lab doesn't have a heavy
It will
setup.
really not. It will not take a lot of time, especially the experiment itself. It's just
Right.
that what takes a lot of time is the answering of the graph.
Right, and that's what we want. That's
Yes.
that's where we want them to get.
We
The
have to have.
getting in
enough
just to do
time.
the timing
Yeah.
is easy. We just need some stopwatches, and then we have 2 different temperatures of water, 2 different
Yes.
sizes for the Alka-Seltzer, so that should be good. And they wouldn't have the catalyst in that case, I don't think.
No.
Right, okay. And so that's fine. So for Tuesday, we'll set up, and what I'll do is I'll shoot Mr. Weedy an email as well, telling him if he has a version of that lab to bring it for Tuesday. And then we'll jump back in to see, by then you'll have had a chance to look at some of their data and see if we want to press forward sooner or later.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I think this is your copy, Ms. Washington.
Yes, that's my copy.